You will switch it. Hello boys and girls, a very good evening and welcome to this live session for the IBPS PO preliminary exam strategy brought to you by TalentSprint. Well, at the outset, I hope all of you are doing well and your preparation for this highly competitive IBPS PO exam, which is to start in October, I think 12th October onwards, is in high gear, right? And from today, if you see, we have just about 45 days to 50 days for this exam. It depends on your slot, right? It could be 12th October or 13th October or the subsequent week there. So on an average, about, let's say, 45 days are left for this game or the highly competitive exam that we are referring to. And how prepared are you and what you should do in the next 45 days from now, from today, is going to play a key role in your success in this exam. So that's what we're going to look at in this quick discussion today. I'll be referring to a lot of strategies that we have discussed with our successful students, right? Every time a student cracks IBPS PO exam or any bank exam or any competitive exam for that matter, we kind of try and get in touch with the student to understand his preparation strategy, his or her preparation strategy. And we have always found something very interesting that has come up from those discussions. So I think this session today is going to be about those key points that we have picked up from, successful students so far, which can probably help you as well. All right. So I think let's get started. I will start with the examination pattern first. I'm sure all of you know about it, but let's quickly look at the examination pattern, followed by one of the previous year papers, last year's papers, and then we will talk about how do you get ready for various sections here. What are the most important do's and don'ts that can help you score more in the exam. Okay, so let me quickly start with the examination pattern. Now you know that the IBPS PO prelims exam has got 100 questions in it across 3 sections, right? What are the 3 sections? Quantitative aptitude. Let me quickly throw this in front of you. You can just look at the screen here. So there are 3 sections. We have quantitative aptitude, reasoning ability, and English language. There are 35 questions each in quantitative aptitude and reasoning ability, and 30 questions in reasoning. 35 questions each in quantitative aptitude and reasoning ability, and 30 questions in English language. So that makes it 100 questions. You have got a total of 60 minutes to attempt these 100 questions. Now what has changed in the last few years is that earlier there used to be a composite time of 1 hour given to you, but from the last few years we have seen that there has been a sectional time limit which has been implemented in the IBPS PO prelims exam, which means for each of these 3 sections you will be given only 20 minutes. Now that's the real competition, right? 20 minutes to attempt 35 or 30 questions in that particular section. Now this restricts, this time restriction actually puts many other restrictions on you. Earlier you had the advantage of solving the paper the way you want, right? Starting with the section that you are comfortable with, or trying to answer questions from a particular section that you are strong at. But that choice is not available anymore, because the sequence in which the questions will be asked, or rather the sequence in which the sections will be posed in the exam, is fixed now, right? If it starts with quantitative aptitude, you have to do quantitative aptitude. If it starts with English language, you will have to English language. So how do you strategize your preparation given this scenario so that you can maximize your score, right? So I think a very simple format otherwise, right? 100 questions, 100 marks, each question carries 1 mark, and 60 minutes. Now that's like a T20 game, right? 20 minutes per section. What can you do in 20 minutes? I mean, the moment you start answering questions from a particular section, 20 minutes just flies by, right? You may not be able to you may not even be able to read all the 35 questions, which I'm sure happens with most of us. So what I would say is have a strategy that can at least help you go through all the 35 questions. How many of these questions do you answer is secondary. What is primary is you should be able to go through the entire paper. Enough times I have explained this, enough times I've experienced this, that when you step out of the examination hall, the first reaction is, I did not even read the full paper. I don't even know what all the 100 questions were, right? I had to skip, or I had to kind of skip to the next section or jump to the next section for this particular reason of time not being available, which I think is the biggest problem at hand, right? Time management is going to play a key role. So what can you do to make sure that you go through all the 100 questions? What can you do to manage your time better, and what can you do to improve your score in this exam is the discussion that we're going to have from here on. Now, let me start with something very, very controversial. I'm sure many of you will be like, we did not join this session to hear this, but let me put it straight. There cannot be a strategy that I can give you which works for all of you, right? In my view, ideas and strategies are available, a dime for a dozen, right? These are available in plenty. There are plenty of strategies available, plenty of ideas available to score more, right? A one-size-fit-all strategy is not something that you should be looking for, right? So if you think I'll be able to give you a strategy in the next 15-20 minutes that can help you crack this exam, your expectations are wrong. All I can tell you is what are the best practices. You should be able to apply these in the next 45 days, right? So the strategy is not the problem. The problem is execution, and it is in your hands, right? I have seen many students who come to us having cracked the exam, and after getting the job, they kind of give the credit to us, right? I mean, it is because of you that we have got the job. But I don't believe in it, because if that was really the case, all of you should have got the job by now. That doesn't happen, right? Because not all of you are practicing in the right way. Not all of you are applying what we are discussing here. So what I'm trying to tell you is, while I'll give you the best practices, you should fine-tune your preparation plan and your strategy depending on your own strengths and weaknesses. All right? So I think just ensure that you've got that point frozen before we move forward. So what do? 45 days of time, 3 different sections, and 100 questions to attempt. Let us start. Let us actually start with going back to last year's question paper and quickly looking at the different types of topics covered, because that will give us a sense of what all you need to prepare, what all can be avoided in your preparation, and where should your focus be on in each of these sections, right? So I have a paper available here, which is of course based on memory, right? These papers are not available publicly, you know what I mean. But so there's this paper that I have. Let me quickly go through all the 3 sections. Let's start with quantitative aptitude. Now, what was asked last year? The first 5 questions were on data interpretation. There was a line graph given, followed by the next 5 questions, which are also on data interpretation, where we were given a bar graph, right? So that makes it the first 10 questions. The next 5 questions were on a caselet or a case study, right? I mean, you were given some data in the raw format. You need to read, understand this data, and then answer the 5 questions. So if you see, 15 out of the first 35 questions are on data, right? Either fine data or raw data. Now, question number 16 is on time and work. I'm not getting into the details here as to what the question was and things like that, but let me just quickly mention the different topics. So we have time and work, then we have time and distance, we have profit and loss, then we have again time and distance, another format. We have ratios and ages, we have got both boats and streams, we've got allegations and mixtures, then we have partnership, we have got pipes and systems, and we have got profit and loss. This makes the first 25 questions. The next set of questions, 26 to 30, are on number series, right? And 31 to 35 are on quadratic equations, right? I mean, 2 equations given to you, solve the 2 quadratic equations, and then answer the questions followed by. So if you see overall, these 35 questions cover a lot of topics, right? Almost all the topics in quantitative aptitude that you can think of, right? Either directly or indirectly. Now, should you be preparing only for these topics? Well, you never know if the same pattern would be followed this year or not. But then there are some important topics that you must focus on, like data interpretation. It usually carries a high weightage, right? Easily 15 to 20 questions can be expected from that particular topic. Then we have number series, right? We have seen that almost every time we get about 5 questions from number series. Then we have quadratic equations, right? Carries 5 marks weight in the exam, right? 5 quadratic equations or 5 sets of quadratic equations. Solve the equations and then answer the questions, right? So these are some topics that cover almost, let's say, 70% of the paper. The remaining 30% comes from a variety of topics in arithmetic aptitude, like time and work, time and distance, profit and loss, simple and compound interest, partnership, ages, percentages, ratio and proportions, etc. Now, each topic is given for 1 mark. So can you skip a particular topic? Well, I would say no, because every mark here is valuable, right? Each single mark that you score can shoot your rank or can, help you qualify in the exam. So there is nothing in quantitative aptitude that you must plan not to prepare, right? You should be thorough with all the concepts because there are limited topics. I mean, if you ask me, there are about 18 to 20 topics or 18 to 20 chapters that you can think of in quantitative aptitude and limited concepts. You should be thorough with all these concepts. What you should really focus on when it comes to quantitative aptitude is your numerical skills, right? Trust me, the one reason why many of us fail to score more in this particular section is because of our poor calculation ability. I have mentioned this a zillion times already. One more time today. You are bad at calculation, or rather let me say we are bad at calculation. We think we know how to do numbers, but honestly we waste a lot of time when we are doing even very simple calculations like multiplication of 2-digit numbers. Now I don't want to get into explaining how do you do the calculations. There are enough videos available on that on YouTube. You can follow our channel. But what I'm saying is, make sure that from today onwards, I'm sure many of you must have already started doing this, but those who haven't, it's high time that you spend at least 30 minutes every day from today onwards just practicing numbers, just practicing calculations. Because like I said, the concepts are limited, right? The shortcut formulae that you have to learn or the techniques that you have to learn are all very limited. But only those techniques and shortcuts are not going to help you score more. Eventually what matters is, are you able to work on those numbers or not? Are you able to play with those numbers or not? And that can happen only if you are smart and quick in doing calculations. So I think one very important point for quantitative aptitude is to learn how to do your calculations quickly. Right now there are a plethora of techniques available, right? Follow the ones that you find comfortable in applying and just keep practicing on that, right? The next 45-50 days that you have can definitely help you a lot in scoring more. So other than what you spend time practicing, right? Practicing questions every day or practicing various topics every day, ensure that you have 30 minutes dedicatedly available for just improving your numerical skills. That's about quantitative aptitude. We'll get into more details about how to approach, how do you plan those 20 minutes during the exam and how do you plan your preparation as well. But let's look at the next section now. Quickly, reasoning ability, right? What happens here? Let me run you through these 35 questions. The topics there. The first one is on alphabet. A very simple topic. Second question is also on alphabet. Question number 3 to 7 here are on a topic called coded inequalities. 3 to 7, right? So 5 questions on coded inequalities, and trust me, coded inequalities is the easiest topic that you can get in the reasoning section of your exam, right? It takes about 15 minutes to master this topic, not just learn the concept, but you can master this topic in 15 minutes if you know the important rules to be followed. Anyway, we're not getting into the discussion of the subject here. 8 to 10, so 8, 9 and 10, these 3 questions are on what is called data sufficiency. 2 statements given to you. You have to identify which of these statements are sufficient to answer the given question. 11 to 15 is a puzzle. Let me give you a gist of it. It says 8 persons A to H were born in 8 different years, 91, 92, 84, 94 and so on, but not necessarily in the same order. And you then have to arrange them based on their ages, right? Ascending order or descending order of their ages. So seems like a simple one, 11 to 15, but it's a puzzle, assignment kind of a problem. 16 to 20 is a square table arrangement. It says 8 persons again, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V and W, who are sitting around a square table, right? Or sitting on a square table. 4 of them at corners, 4 on the sides, and various combinations there. So this again comes from puzzle. 5 more questions. Then the next set of questions again on puzzles, right? 11 boxes are arranged one over the other in a shelf, and then a lot of clues given there with regards to their sequence. So 15 questions on puzzles already. 26 to 30 is one more puzzle. 5 persons, 5 different days of a week. Each person does something on one particular day, right? 5 different hobbies. So again, a kind of assignment, but the category of puzzles. So 20 questions on puzzles. And the last one, 31 to 35, is one more puzzle, right? 3 persons are sitting between A and C, 5 persons are sitting between F and A. So it's kind of a linear arrangement. So 25 out of 35 questions in reasoning ability section last year were on different types of puzzles. It could involve circular arrangements, linear arrangements. There can be questions on assignments. There can be square table arrangements, right? There can be floor-based puzzles, right? Or there can be different boxes which have to be sequenced, and a variety of those categories here. Now, what is important? Very clearly, puzzles carry a high weightage here. In fact, if you are good in cracking those puzzles, you automatically will be able to score more, not just in the prelims exam but also in the mains exam, right? The same applies for the main examination as well. But the underlying challenge is that puzzles are not easy to crack. There is no definite method to answer these puzzles. There is no step-by-step process to solve the puzzle. You may or may not be able to crack it in the exam. So what should you do then? Then should you just focus on the other types of questions like coded inequalities? We saw it got 5 questions in last year's exam, right? And then there were questions on other topics like data sufficiency, alphabet, etc. Now, while there are other easier topics like coded inequalities, syllogisms, machine input-output, or there can be blood relations, directions, there are these topics where there is a definite method to solve the question. You should master those methods, right? You should learn that method and the concept so that you can, answer those questions. But what do you do with this other elephant there, right? The topic of puzzle. I have always mentioned in all my sessions that there is no shortcut to answer this puzzle, and the best way to solve a puzzle in the exam would be to skip it, right? The easiest method to solve a puzzle is to actually skip it. Now again, this sounds controversial, right? I'm actually asking you to skip 25 out of 35 questions in the section. But what I really mean there is skip it for that moment. Remember, you have only 20 minutes. We have already understood this. It's a battle, right? You have to give your best in those 20 minutes. Each puzzle may take anywhere between 3 minutes to 15 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on how complex it is. And you would not know how complex the puzzle is unless you start solving it. So keeping all these points in mind, the best strategy would be to first answer non-puzzle based questions like the coded inequalities or the alphabet or the blood relations, directions, etc. So I would say in that 20 minutes, ensure that you first answer the other types of questions, and then with whatever time is left out, pick up 1 or 2 or 3 of these puzzles which you think can be solved and give it a shot. But remember, you may not be able to you may or may not be able to crack it. You should be mentally prepared for that. So when it comes to reasoning section, definitely it is important to solve as many puzzles as you can before you go for the exam, because that kind of widens your reasoning skills, right? You should know how to approach different types of puzzles, right? The more questions you practice, the easier it gets, I would say, right? But then what really matters is to be able to pick up your questions wisely in the exam, right? Especially when it comes to the reasoning section. So if I recall all the discussions that I've had with successful students, they've always said the same and agreed to the same, that first solve other questions and then go for puzzles, right? And pick up the ones that you think are easy, right? It's like this, right? If I have to give you an analogy, let's say, just hypothetically, let's assume that you are given 20 minutes of free shopping time. There's a huge mall available which has got different types of stores there. There are stores which are selling mobile phones, there are stores which are selling electronics, there are stores which are selling fashion, clothing, you can think of a typical mall there, and say you have been given 20 minutes to pick up whatever you can from that mall, and it's free, absolutely free. But remember, you just have 20 minutes. You cannot, enter the 21st minute. What would you do? What would your strategy be? Your strategy would be to go to a store, and there's no condition applicability, right? No conditions apply. So your strategy, I'm sure, would be to go to a store which sells most valuable goods, right? Like, for example, I would, if I were given this situation, I would go to a store which is, let's say, selling electronics or jewelry, right? Because I may not be using that jewelry, but I'll get the most value out of it. I will go out and sell it for the sake of argument. So what is the point that I'm trying to make here is identify what is the value. In this example, the value is to pick up goods in that limited 20 minutes of time, which are more valuable than the others, right? I would pick up a mobile phone as against a pair of jeans, because this, of course, is costlier, right? Dearer than the jeans there, whether I need it or not, right? In this exam situation, if you now come back to the scenario that we are in, when you have 20 minutes of time, the value is that time itself, right? Now, if you have got 35 questions, you should be choosing the ones which can give you more value. And obviously, by more value, I mean you should be able to get more marks in that limited 20 minutes of time, and that can happen only when you answer easier questions first, all right? So identify those easier questions. I'm not saying puzzles are tough, but then not easy also, right? And there's no definite method. So please make sure that in these 45 days that you have, you master this technique of picking up your questions wisely, all right? You should always try out different strategies in each of your mock exams that you take, and then after 5 or 10 mock exams, you should arrive at a strategy that works for you, that this is how I'm gonna attempt this particular section in the exam. All right, we'll come to more of what needs to be done about these two sections, but let's quickly go through the English language section as well. Now, this is one section which has got an unfair advantage, I would say, right? This whole idea of giving 20 minutes per section kind of ends up giving you more time in the English language section. There are two reasons for this. Number one, English language has got 30 questions as against 35 in quant and reasoning. So there you are given 20 minutes for 35 questions. Here you have 20 minutes for 30 questions. So obviously more average time per question here. And more than that, this is not something where you have to apply a formula to get the answer, right? Or apply a strategy to get the answer, right? By the time you finish reading the question, you either know the answer or you don't know the answer. Largely that's how it works, right? It's like general awareness, right? You either know it or you don't know it. You cannot apply a formula to get the capital of a country, or to let's say, for example, if the question is what is the repo rate, for example, in general awareness, is there a formula? No, you should know what the repo rate is, what the current repo rate is. So that's how, to a great extent, the English language section works. So by that means, it has got more time compared to the other sections. However, the type of questions that are being asked these days are changing, right? There's a different pattern that we see each time, different pattern of questions. So you should be thorough with all these latest patterns. Now let me quickly take you through these 30 questions that were asked last year. 1 to 5 is reading comprehension, right? And if I kind of recall what experts of this particular subject say, reading comprehension is one part that you should attempt towards the end of your exam. Towards the end in this particular section at least, right? Because reading the passage itself would take about 2-3 minutes, let's say, in 20 minutes of your time, and you never know if you will be able to arrive at the answer. So reading comprehension 1 to 5, and then we have question numbers 6 to 10, which I am honestly coming across for the first time when I see this paper. It has got 2 columns. Column 1 has got sentence and phrases ABC, and the second column has got sentence and phrases DEF, right? So 6 phrases given to you, and now you have to kind of map a sentence from first column to the second column. It may make a meaningful sentence, right? Conceptually and grammatically it should be forming a correct sentence, and then options are given to you, right? Like, for example, C and D is a pair, or B and F is a pair, or E and E is a pair, and so on. So 5 questions of this type. Then we have 11 to 15, which are which again is a very interesting one, right? I was just going through this. It says choose one of the words from the given options which makes the sentence incorrect such that it changes the whole meaning of the sentence. So there is a sentence given to you, and by all means I am no expert teaching English language here. We have expertise available otherwise, but I'm just trying to kind of explain you the idea here. So we have to choose one word from the given options which completely changes the meaning of the sentence, right? So this is something new that I had seen. 16 to 20 is finding out the usage of a given word. So a word is given to you followed by 5 sentences. You have to find out which sentence has got the correct usage of that particular word. So more to do with vocabulary and usage of the word. 21 to 25 again is a kind of paragraph given to you with 5 blanks, and you have to fill in those 5 blanks. So it's kind of fill in the blanks in a paragraph fashion, right, as against independent sentences. And the last set here, 26 to 30, is to kind of rearrange a set of statements given to you to make a correct and meaningful sentence, right? There are 5 parts given to you. You have to sequence them in such a way that it makes a meaningful sentence. Yeah, so that's about it. So English language, again, different types of questions, and like I said, each time we are seeing new types of questions coming in, new patterns of questions coming in. But what matters in my view, and what I gather from talking to different experts on this particular section, is that while you practice on different topics here within English language every day, what really plays a very important role, and most of us fail to realize this, is to read regularly. Now, read what? Read anything, but more importantly a newspaper, because that has got other hidden advantages, right? So what all these experts say is, if you can spend, let's say, 30-45 minutes of quality time reading a newspaper, relevant stuff in a newspaper, you will start feeling the difference after a few weeks, right? It doesn't improve your English immediately on day one, but if you keep reading a quality newspaper, you would feel that you are getting a sense of it, and things will make a lot more sense as you keep doing it. So other than the regular practice that you do in English language, I would just copy whatever I've gathered from them and put it in front of you. Make sure that you read a newspaper every day, at least one newspaper every day, right? Because that definitely helps you improve your English language. It kind of introduces you to new words each day. I'm sure if you just take the front page of a newspaper every single day, you'll find enough words, or at least I find enough words which I have no clue about, right? I mean, and it's now the intelligence lies in identifying the word, meaning of the word, and trying to use it in your conversation so that you know what it means. And you never know which of these words would come in your exam. So it, number one, definitely helps you in your English language overall. Number two, it improves your vocabulary. And 3 is it also helps you improve your general awareness, which again becomes one of the sections in the next round, right, when you go for the mains examination. And 4th point, which I definitely feel is important here, is it gives you a point of view, right? You can have conversations, you can have quality conversations on any subject if you are a regular newspaper reader, because you will know both the sides, both the views, different types of views for a particular topic that is being discussed, right? So with all these hidden advantages or positive side effects that it has got, I think reading newspaper becomes really important. I know in this day and generation of technology, I'm not sure how many of you kind of feel a newspaper every day, but I think it's important from your examination point of view to subscribe to your newspaper. While news is available on different apps and on internet these days, reading a physical newspaper is a different experience altogether, right? So I think with regards to the English language section, in your preparation, inculcate this habit of reading a newspaper, right? It has got a lot of benefits which we don't realize initially. You will know as you just go about it. So I think if I have to summarize what I've discussed in the last 10-15 minutes for each of these sections, every section is different. Your strengths or weaknesses for each of these sections vary, right? I mean, quantitative aptitude is my strength, but it could be your weakness, or English language is your strength, it could be my weakness. So that is the reason I cannot give you a strategy that works for all of you, right? I mean, there's no standard plan or a one-size-fit-all strategy that can do wonders for all of you, or that can help you crack the exam. You have to devise your own strategy. But important things which are applicable for all of us are, number one, improve on your numerical ability, right? Improve on your calculations when it comes to quantitative aptitude, because that definitely plays a key role. Trust me on this, all right? I'm sure, and I've seen this enough, right? When I ask you what is important to score more in quantitative aptitude, the instant response is we should know shortcut formulae, we should know tricks, we should practice. Well, all these are true. What is more important than any of this is to actually practice on calculations. Shortcut formulae, all of us know. Nothing is secret, right? Everybody knows how to solve a question on let's say compound interest using a shortcut formula, right? The formula could vary from one person to the other, but there is a formula available with all of you. And if it is not known to you yet, you can figure it out. I mean, it's not rocket science. What is actually rocket science is to improve on your numerical skills and do that dedicatedly. So I think improve on your numerical skills, ensure that you spend 30 to 45 minutes every day. Now, how you plan your day is up to you, depending on what your other daily routine is, right? I mean, some of you could be students, some of you could be working professionals, some are just preparing for these exams. So you will have to plan your day out, but ensure that your daily routine has numerical skills practice slot available in it. Your daily routine involves solving different types of puzzles every day, right? Whether you otherwise practice on reasoning or not, I would say try and solve 1 or 2 puzzles every day. Given the weightage this particular topic has in reasoning section, you should solve at least, if not more, at least 100 puzzles before you go for the exam, right? Do not worry about how much time you spend on each puzzle. I am not asking you to solve a puzzle in 5 minutes. Take 20 minutes time, take 30 minutes time. Trust me, I have enough puzzles lying in my kitty which I have not been able to solve for months together, right? I mean, not that I'm spending time every day, but I have seen enough puzzles which takes me a couple of hours sometimes to arrive at the answer. We of course don't have this much time in the exam, but the idea is to, that kick it gives when you arrive at the solution. And more importantly, you will figure out what was missing in your entire solution that finally gave you the answer. And when you approach such a puzzle in the exam, you probably will have a better start, right? If you have solved questions on puzzles already, you would know that it's all about starting right? You should pick up the right starting point and right connections after that. And that comes only with practice, only with solving enough questions. So yeah, daily routine should have numerical skills, daily routine should have a slot for practicing puzzles, and of course reading a newspaper is a must. Now, I'm not saying only these 3 things would help. You will also have to practice on different topics depending on what you are strong and what you're weak at. You will also have to take a lot of mock exams regularly, and you will also have to give some time to make yourself mentally prepared for this exam, right? So let me now that we have understood at subject level what needs to be done, let me now tell you about some important do's and don'ts, right? Number 1, which all of you know, is to practice, right? But what to keep in mind when you're practicing and taking mock exams, right? I'm sure all of you would take 15, 20, 30 mock exams before you go for the real IBPS PO exam there. But what you have to keep in mind is don't get dejected by the scores that you get in these mock exams, right? Again, enough students come and say, I am taking a mock exam every alternate day or every Sunday or twice a week or thrice a week, but I don't find my scores going up, right? I'm still at that 50, 60 mark. I'm not able to get to 80, I'm not able to get to 70. And my only reaction to that is, why do you even worry about it, right? I think the only thing that you guys should keep in mind when you're taking mock exams at whatever frequency that you're comfortable with is that ensure that you're not repeating your mistakes. Taking that 1 hour of mock exam is not important. what is important is to spend 2 hours after the mock exam is over to analyze what you did in that 1 hour. You're getting me? Taking 30 mock exams or 1 hour each would take 30 hours of your preparation time, which is easily available. But what you should spend more time on is to analyze your performance after every exam. All right? So after having spent 1 hour, you know the report, you know what you have done right, what you have done wrong. Now try to figure out whatever you had missed out, how do you solve that questions first of all in the first place. Whatever you have answered correctly, is there a better way to answer those questions? And wherever you have gone wrong, correct that mistake and ensure you don't repeat it in the next exam. I think for me the success is not repeating that same mistake again in the next examination, right? Your score may go down. I mean, in All India mock exam 1, I scored 56 marks. In the mock exam 2, if I score 45 marks, I should not panic. In the next exam, third exam, if I score 42 marks, I should not panic. Or in the fourth exam, if I end up scoring 94 marks, I should not feel on the top of the world, assuming that, it's over now, I can crack any exam. No, because that quantity doesn't really justify your, doesn't really is a metric that can measure your preparation. What measures your preparation is, are you repeating the mistakes or not? Commit new mistake in every exam, that is okay, but don't repeat the mistake. Even till your last mock exam, you may commit a new mistake, which is fine, but you should not be repeating that in your next examination, and definitely not in the real IBPS PO examination. So very, very important, during your preparation, you will be taking a lot of mock exams at section level or at overall examination level, right? You may take practice test on quantitative aptitude alone, you may take practice test on reasoning ability alone, you may take practice test on English language alone. Don't compare the marks and keep changing your strategy, right? Don't get swayed or influenced by your marks. Just ensure that you are learning with every exam and you're not repeating your mistakes in any of the exams, right? Number 2, I would say, is to ensure that with every exam you are trying a strategy. At least for the first 5 or 10 mock exams, have a strategy. Like in the 20 minutes of quantitative aptitude time that you have got, maybe in the first mock exam, start with number series and simplifications and approximations types of questions, and then try and go for data interpretation. Right? Don't start with data interpretation right away. See how it works for you. But definitely in the next mock exam, try the reverse of it. Right? You should have tried multiple strategies before you finally arrive at something, before you finally decide, okay, this is what I want to do in the exam. Are you getting my point? Right? So try different things with every mock and see what is working for you, right? And again, don't get influenced by strategies that others are applying, right? It is his strategy, it works for him, may not work for you, right? So have your own personal exam strategy, right? And number 3, again, this is related to practice itself. Number 3 is the day you get to know your, and this is a very important point which I learned from one of our successful students, right? And I had never thought of it, by the way, so I'm really impressed by this idea. The point that one of the participants made is the day he got his admit card for the IBPS PO exam or whichever exam that he was referring to, that there are different slots available, right? During the day, there are 4 or 5 slots available. Your exam can be at 8 a.m. or can be at 11 a.m. or can be at 1 p.m., let's say 1:30 or 4 p.m. or whatever it is. But you get to know your examination slot, right? That you're going to take that exam on that particular slot on the day. What he says is, from that day, when I got to know my examination slot, I ensured that I take an exam at that particular time every day till my real examination. So let's say your exam is on 12th of October, 30th September you get your admit card, and your admit card tells you that your exam is on 12th October at 4 p.m. What you need to do is, from 30th September till 11th of October, plan your day in such a way that every day at 4 p.m. you're taking a mock exam. Now this really has a great advantage in my view, right? Just taking one mock exam 10 days before the real exam is not important, or 15 days before the exam is not important, right? I mean, that's definitely important, but doing it at the right time is also important, right? You should tune yourself, mentally and physically to be taking an exam at 4 p.m. That really helps, right? And it definitely makes a lot of sense to me, right? Like, let's assume you're taking mock exam every day at 10 a.m., right? Your daily routine, you're taking an exam at 10 a.m. But your actual exam is at 4 p.m. Now, on the day of the exam, if something is not happening at 10 a.m., you see, you're used to doing something at 10 a.m., right? Your performance will automatically be at its peak at that point of time. So why not practice at 4 p.m. itself instead, so that you fine tune yourself to be able to perform the best in that part of the day, right? So I think this is very, very important, and you should all apply this in my view, right? Ensure that you are practicing. I mean, practicing alone is not important, but practicing at the right time is important. And I also draw inspiration from one of the greatest sports persons that I can think of, which is Michael Phelps. Now, if you know, Michael Phelps is a swimmer and one of the, in fact, the most decorated Olympian that we ever got. Look at some of his interviews, right? He says he's got minute to minute planned for the day of the competition, right? Whenever he has his game, he does exactly the same set of things that he has done during his practice, right? From the time he gets up, to the kind of food that he eats, to the kind of music that he listens to the kind of warm-up that he does, everything is exactly fixed, and that's what he follows. And that helps him give his best on the day of the competition, right? And I'm sure if he's doing that, it definitely makes sense. I mean, if you know about Michael Phelps, I'm sure you would fall for the strategy. So also from that, I think and it's only when the student told me, I kind of connected to what I had seen earlier, right? You do that, right? So I think if you guys are under an impression that learning shortcut formulae alone or knowing different techniques and solving more and more questions alone is going to help you, I think you are somewhere going in the wrong direction. While all those are important, there are many other things that matter for your performance to be the best, right? And like I've always said, these competitive exams are not just testing your knowledge, these are also testing your state of mind, right? I have seen enough students who can do really well, but they flunk in this exam. And then on the other hand, I have seen enough students who have not done so well during the mock exams, but in this real examination, they come out with flying colors and they crack the exam in the first attempt. Because what we are not used to is handling that pressure, right? Some people are really good in subject, but they can't handle that pressure of that 1 hour, right? It's really intense and very, very tough competition. So you should not just practice on subject, but also practice on getting mentally ready for that kind of a competition, right? And last point that I would like to add is, make sure that you also have some breathing time during your preparation every day, especially in the last 1 week before your exam, where you just relax and do nothing, right? I have seen a lot of students, and this is the scene every single time, right? You go to the examination center, there are like hundreds of students waiting for entering the examination hall, and many of them are flipping notes, flipping pages, trying to learn, trying to revise minutes before getting into the examination hall. It doesn't work. I've never understood what these guys are trying to do seconds before entering the examination, because you're only building on that pressure, right? You're adding to your pressure. So what I would suggest is to cut your preparation at the right time, which is at least 24-48 hours before the exam. Do nothing, just relax, surround yourself with positive energy, do something that you really like other than preparation, right? A hobby of yours or whatever it could be, and try to calm yourself, right? Try to ensure that you are relaxed for that most important hour of your examination, right? And this, I think, should also be done on a daily basis, right? Just continuously practicing is only gonna it's not really gonna have a great impact, right? So give some time to yourself other than preparing for the exam, because the more you think about it, the more difficult it gets, right? I mean, you only start getting more and more nervous. A little bit of nervousness is natural, but don't let it build due to this unnecessary and external pressures that we take. And definitely the last thing which I would like to tell before we wind up is that do not worry about the cutoff score. I'm sure many of you will have this question. What is the expected cutoff score? What was the cutoff score last year? What should be the minimum number of questions that I attempt in each section? Or what are the important, what are the topics that I can skip in my preparation, or what are the topics that I must definitely practice in my preparation? If I have to be really honest with myself and honest to all of you, I have no clue about any of these things. I mean, I can't tell you what the expected cutoff is going to be, or well, of course, the cutoff of last year is available. It is available on Google. You can Google it yourself, but how does it help? It just ruins your preparation, in my view, right? I mean, how is it anyway going to help you? I mean, the situation is different this time. The participants are different this time. The questions asked are going to be different this time, right? It is not fixed, right? It is not pre-decided. The cutoff score is not pre-decided. A lot of these things play a key role. So do not worry about that. All those who get worried about the cutoff score, actually, that's one external factor that adds to your nervousness. It doesn't matter. I mean, I told this earlier also, right? What if I tell you that this year the cutoff is going to be 45 marks for this exam, and individual section level cutoff is going to be 15 marks per section, for the sake of argument? Will you prepare only for 45 marks? No. Will you just drop your pen after answering 45 questions correctly in the exam? No. You will still go about giving your best in that 1 hour of time, right? So why do you even want to know about the cutoff score? I mean, honestly, I would never strategize my preparation for a particular number, because I am not sure if that number holds true or not, or will it hold true for this particular instance or not. Right? It's like a game of cricket, right? You know the entire history of matches between two particular teams. Can you decide what's going to happen in the match tomorrow based on that history? No. As simple as that. So please don't get worried about cutoff score. Do not try and find out what the expected cutoff score is going to be, and do not strategize your preparation for that particular number. You should be preparing for the best and for the worst. When I say preparing for the best, hope to answer maximum questions, right? You're not gonna say, okay, my exam is over 15 minutes before the actual time, right? So prepare for the best to be able to give the best, and prepare for the worst, that anything can happen in these exams. So what are important topics? I don't know. Everything is important. I mean, look at quantitative aptitude. 35 questions, almost 15 to 16 topics have been tested there. So everything is important. I mean, I'm not sure if they would ask you a question on simple interest and compound interest or not. But there are limited concepts in that topic. You better be prepared for it, right? Because anything can happen tomorrow. They may ask you 5 questions on SI and CI in this exam. Who knows about it? Nobody knows about it, right? So please don't panic and get worried for these, for these external reasons. In my view, all these are, if I have to give you an analogy, this is like Moh Maya, right? It doesn't really add to anything. So that's all from my side, guys. I think all I would say is 45 days that you have in your hand now from today is good enough for you to give your best shot in the exam. Whether you qualify or not, again, is not something that I would like to comment on. You never know. But when you walk into the examination center on 12th of October or 13th of October or 17th or 18th, whatever that date is, that moment should be for you like, I have done whatever I could do, I'm going to give my best in the exam. At that moment, if you have thoughts like, I could have practiced better, I should not have spent time on that topic, or I should have practiced on those few days where I did some other useless stuff and things like that, then you're already failed, in my view, right? Your failure is not whether you qualify in this exam or not. Your failure is that thought that comes to your mind when you're walking into the examination hall. So for you to be able to walk into the center confidently and to be able to feel that I have done everything that I could do, you should make the best use of these 45 days that you have in your hand. So all the very best for your preparation. I would also like to mention that a lot of videos are being released on our YouTube channel, which is TalentSprint Aptitude Prep. We have already made a 50-day study plan, which was released a couple of weeks back. That study plan is available on our YouTube page, which kind of tells you, again, I would not say all of you have to follow that. it depends on your strength and weaknesses, but day 1 to day 50 it tells you on day 1 these 2 topics you must prepare, and these are the videos available on our YouTube channel. Just click on that topic name and you'll be taken to those set of videos which can help you build your concepts and the latest pattern questions. So download that study plan. It's available on our YouTube channel itself. We will also publish it with this event that we have done just now, and try and follow that. I mean, if you don't have any other plan, please follow that study plan. I'm sure it'll kind of keep you fully prepared for your examination. And of course, depending on every topic, depending on how strong you are in that particular topic, you may choose to deviate from the plan, right? Or you may choose to do more or less depending on what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? And yes, do subscribe to the channel so that you get notified by us whenever we do a live session or when we release new videos. By the way, we are releasing new videos every day. Almost 10 to 15 latest pattern videos are getting released. So I think the one-stop solution that I can think of is just go subscribe to TalentSprint's Aptitude Prep channel. All the very best for your preparation. We will keep meeting through these live sessions and discuss more on subjects in our future sessions, right? Like for example, we will do sessions on puzzles or sessions on data interpretation and different other topics where you usually have a lot of confusion, right? By the way, you can also put your topics of interest in the comments of this live session here, so that it kind of gives us a sense of what you really want us to focus more on, right? So please make sure that you comment, leave your comment on what topics you want us to discuss, so that we can plan a lot of live sessions for you in the days to come. All the best and take very good care of yourselves. Bye.